Leadership Partners. We provide leadership solutions for both profit and nonprofit organizations for coaching, teaching, and mentoring. What we want to do is provide your organization with the tools necessary for you to be able to become your best leader. We also want to make sure that you have the tools necessary to be able to change the leaders underneath you to what you want them to become. The goal for us is to help your organization become successful, and we want to be able to do that. What we want to do is provide you with a free 30-day coaching session that helps you to look at the leadership of the kings of Israel. Why would we do that? Well, we have three reasons, really. The first reason is that we want to take a look at both good leadership and bad leadership. If I can see what good leadership looks like, then I know that I can succeed in every single thing that I do. But if I look at bad leadership, I can also stay away from those pitfalls or those dangers that the bad leadership presents to them. And we can find that here with the kings of Israel. The second reason is this. What we want to do is we want to take a look at the historical perspective of what happened, because we have a written record of things that they did and the results of them. So their planning, their preparation, their execution phases all led to some point in their lives where they were either successful or failed. And we want to be able to make sure that we can understand what it was that they did, how they implemented them, and by seeing the results, we can avoid those negative aspects and embrace the positive ones. The third thing that we want to do is we want to take a look at servant leadership. We're going to give you a 5-day bonus program that allows you to be able to take a look at the servant leadership of Jesus Christ. Now, this is extraordinarily important because servant leadership is becoming the main leadership theory out there that most organizations are using. We want to make sure that we provide that for you, and I encourage you to look for that. You won't miss it if you subscribe over here and hit the notification bell. If you do that, then you won't miss a single one of these videos. What we want to do today is we're going to take a look at King Manasseh. We just took a look at King Hezekiah. He ruled for 27 years, did a great job, one of the best kings that Israel ever had. And yet his son was one of the worst ones that there ever was. This is 2 Kings 21, 1 and 2. Manasseh was 12 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 55 years. His mother was Hephzibah, and he did what was evil in the Lord's sight, following the detestable practices of the pagan nations that the Lord had driven from the land ahead of the Israelites. We can see that Manasseh came in, and at 12 years of age, he completely tore apart all the good things that his father did. What we want to do is we want to make sure that when we come in, if there was a good leader ahead of us, we don't want to change too much. We really want to follow along with the policies and procedures, get to know them, understand them, and see if we can fit into those policies and procedures. If we can't do that, then what we want to do is we want to develop our own good leadership skills based off of what we know the organization needs. So we want to make sure that we do those things. This is 2 Chronicles 33:6, and it goes on to tell us a little bit more about Manasseh. And it says, Manasseh also sacrificed his own sons in the fire in the valley of Ben Hinnom. He practiced sorcery, divination, witchcraft, and he consulted with mediums and psychics. He did much that was evil in the Lord's sight, arousing his anger. So we can see that Manasseh didn't quite follow along with the policies and the procedures that God wanted him to do. A lot of times we'll see leaders that come into an organization that totally blow off the organizational handbook. They completely blow off all the things that they're supposed to be doing, and they completely change the organization to the way that they think that things should be. And usually it's not something that happens very well, and it doesn't usually end well. But we can see that Manasseh did the exact same thing. So we as leaders want to make sure that we understand the good things that are there. We want to think carefully about the things that we're doing, especially if change is needed. We read further on in 2 Kings 22:16, it says, Manasseh also murdered many innocent people until Jerusalem was filled from one end to the other with innocent blood. This was in addition to the sin that he caused the people of Judah to commit, leading them to do evil in the Lord's sight. You can see the problem here that Manasseh had. He went through and he looked at all these different things that he had done. He committed murder, he worshipped other idols, he did all these other things, and the problem that he had was that the people of Judah started following along with him. They started doing the exact same thing. We as leaders, if we take an unethical step and if we move towards negative change, our team is going to follow us. So we want to make sure that we take that right step in the right direction so that our team can follow us. And when we don't, what we want to make sure of is that we get back on path and we get back on track. And a lot of people will say, why was Manasseh able to rule for 55 years when his father only ruled for 27, and his father was a much better king than he was? Well, Manasseh gets captured. just like the kings in the northern kingdom were. He gets captured and he gets brought to Babylon. And what happens? Well, he repents to the Lord, and the Lord sends him back. He gets sent back and he changes his ways. He goes back and he thinks about things and he reconsiders what he had been doing, and he starts living a life that actually means something and makes a huge difference, not only in his life, but in the life of the country of Judah. Check this out. 2 Chronicles 33, 11 and 12. It says, "So the Lord sent the commanders of the Assyrian armies, and they took Manasseh prisoner. They put a ring through his nose, bound him in a bronze chain, and led him away to Babylon. But while in deep distress, Manasseh sought the Lord his God and sincerely humbled himself before the God of his ancestors." So what he did was he had a change of heart. It doesn't say when this happened within his kingdom. It could have happened after 5 years. It could have happened after 50 years. But he repented. He changed his ways, and he went back and he did the things he knew that he needed to do to get his nation back on track. Now he has his son Josiah, who comes in and does a phenomenal job and does another great job. He was just as good, if not better, than King Hezekiah. And we'll take a look at him tomorrow, but what we want to do is we want to think. We want to use the acronym THINK to follow along with this process for implementing change within our lives, especially turning ourselves around and getting ourselves on the right path. So the T in THINK should be that we should think about what we want to become. If I can get a vision of what we want, if I can write these things down, if I can write these things down for my team, if I can say, look guys, this is where we want to go with this, then they'll follow along with us as long as there's a vision there. But I've got to think about it. I've got to really ponder this so that I can understand it. I also want to make sure that I know how it will help change the situation. So I have to understand the processes that I'm going to implement. I have to understand how it works. I need to understand the mechanics of it. So I've got to do a little bit of study. I've got to follow these processes, but I also have to follow the right processes and make sure that I get them in the right order. The next thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that it's an important steps necessary for change. Or in other words, I want to find what those important steps are and I want to follow them. So I'm going to get these steps that are necessary for change, I'm going to put them in the right order, and then I'm going to make sure that I find the most important step and then organize every single thing in relationship to that. The next thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that I have the necessities necessary for change. I have to have the organizational resources to make sure that I can do these things. The last thing that I need to know is I need to have the knowledge necessary for change. I can't just go willy-nilly in. I need to know how to do these things. I can ask others, I can ask for mentors, I can ask my superiors, I can even ask my subordinates. They may have enough organizational skill and ability to be able to help me make these right decisions. And once I'm able to do that, then I've got the knowledge to be able to do that. Let's take a look at some of Manasseh's good qualities and some of his negative qualities. It failed, he changed his ways. We can also see that he established strong leadership within Judah. The people of Judah followed along with exactly what it was that he was doing, whether it was good or whether it was bad. They followed along with him. And when he identified those negative things, then he absolutely changed them. Under some of the bad things that he had done were that he became one of the worst kings of Judah, and he followed the detestable practices of the kings who failed before him. He took a look at all the different things that others had done before him, and he followed their practices. And he absolutely failed because of it. So what we want to do then is I want to ask you 2 quick questions. These questions will help you to understand where it is that you need to be as a leader and help you get set on that right path to either change or continue on with the path that you're at. So the first question that I have for you is this: how do you turn things around within your organization? What are some of the things that you do to make sure that, hey, I know that I'm going in the wrong direction. How do I change this around? The second question that I want to ask you is, how are you going to do that? Now again, what we want to do is we want to identify the key task and the critical place of where we're going, and then we'll make the steps that are necessary for that. But you have to develop this plan to be able to do that. So how do you implement that change within the organization that you want to see there? I encourage you to look back in some of our other videos, and you can see that we talked a lot about change and how we can do those things. But either way, I encourage you to take these tools that we've given you and become that leader that you were created to be.